Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So hope you guys are having good coffee and a good time today. So my name is Fumi. I'm from Nigerian startup. Then today, at first, I'd like to welcome these panelists today. Then before starting, I'd like to welcome panelists and also hear a short introduction from each. So can you please introduce each shortly, name, your company, and then within 50 seconds.
Okay. Afternoon, everyone. My name is Caroline Kigathi. I head brand partnerships and brand marketing services at Glovo. As you know, Glovo is an on-demand courier service that was founded in Barcelona in 2015. Currently, we are available in 27 markets across Africa, Europe, and Central Asia. And in Africa specifically, we're available in 7 markets.
Hi, everybody, and I know you're really tired, but my name is Rebecca Amo, and I am from Vilgo, Africa, and I specialize in research and evidence-based incubation. You've heard a little bit about Vilgo Africa. We are health-based incubator, and we support portfolios within Africa and mostly Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Ethiopia, and we're moving out to West Africa. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Peter Ndishu. I'm with the Catalyst Fund. So basically, the Catalyst Fund is an early stage accelerator that's based here in Nairobi, mainly focusing on inclusive fintech and climate tech companies. Currently, we are sourcing for 10 companies to invest in. And actually, our call application is closing at the end of the week. So really looking forward to meeting a lot of the companies in here who are early stage and looking for about a 200K injection in the company in terms of capital and venture building.
All right. My name is Martin Karanja. I'm a director for the GSM Innovation Fund. And our work is typically to identify startups in Africa and Asia Pacific and support them with funding opportunities. But beyond that, we support them to work with mobile operators across the markets. And on top of that, we do, of course, give them technical assistance to just get them through other challenges they face beyond funding.
All right, thank you very much. Again, thank you very much for your participation today. So I'd like to move forward. Then I'd like to start from this question to Caroline and Peter. So since Caroline is working for Global, and also Peter worked for Airtel before, right? Then Global and Airtel are one of the biggest company, IT company in Africa, in East Africa, but rather Africa. So at first, I'd like to hear from Caroline. So how's the operation at Global?
So do you mean how we are able to remain agile as we grow?
Yeah, and also I also would like to hear, so when startup wants to expand, the team should be bigger. Then do you think, what do you think is the most important things to keep an agile team in a larger organization?
Okay, so at Glovo, we're able to do so much with so little. You can imagine that in the Glovo Kenya office alone, we are only 35 employees. And I think the most important thing is just making sure that your processes are well aligned. Make sure that your employees are aligned to the OKRs. I'd recommend as you start out, have a quarterly business review so that as you goal plan, you're more agile as opposed to like planning out a whole half or a whole year. And then have like a weekly business review where you're able to like look at the OKRs, look where you are at, follow up on where you are. And if any employee is stuck, like have one-on-ones with that. So just make sure that your processes are well aligned and also that your employees are following the processes that you have set out for them.
Yeah, that's interesting. Operational and the system. So try to systematic and more operational. So how about Peter? So what is your experiences at Airtel?
Yeah, I mean, today I'm not representing Airtel, so I'll really talk about it both from a large company perspective and from a company that is actually scaling. So in my view, I think a lot of the things that really apply for a big company also really apply for a small company, right? So for example, I think one of the things that I liked from the previous panel is that they talked about listening, right? Listening to the investor, listening to the board, but I'm going to flip it a bit and talk about listening to the customer. So you have to really focus on actually delivering value to the customer. And provided that's where your mind is, that's where a lot of your effort is, then you're more likely to actually build products that really address a real need. And one of the stories that actually came out from last week's Antler event, there was this founder I met, and they were actually building out an insurtech a couple of years back. And they told me, actually one of the insurtech companies that really scaled, and probably all of you know about it, they were really next door to our office, right? And the only mistake that we did is that we really focused on actually building the technology, locked ourselves in a room, and were really building some of the best technology you can imagine. But we really never took it out to the customer. So at the end of the day, by the time we had really built this really cool technology, it was not really fit for the market. And when we took it to the market, it took us a long time to iterate. And by that time, the company had actually already died. So you really have to put the customer first and build with the customer in mind from day one. And then secondly, I think one trap that a company is likely to get into as they scale is really around the team culture, right? Is there a culture of openness? Is there a culture of trust? Is the leadership accessible, right? So those are fundamentals that, as a business is scaling are really important, right? You need to make sure that as a CEO, you actually know what's happening in the company. And a lot of the times you need to be on the ground as well, right? But as a company grows, it's not always possible to high five everyone or to know, what the 1,000 employees is up to. So it's really important as the company scales that openness and that trust is really embedded in the company DNA and the company culture.
I see. Yeah, that's true. So cultural thing is very important too when we expand other countries. I also would like to hear other examples. So Rebecca, I know looking at your portfolio, do you think what is the success factor of business expansion?
So we are an incubator, and most of our portfolios that we work with are in different countries. For instance, we have Kenya, have Tanzania, Uganda, Ethiopia, and now moving to West Africa. So when you look at the differences in culture, it's a constant, regardless, being even in the country. If you're moving your product from, let's say, the cities to rural areas, different ways of looking at it. There are different boundaries that you have to, move into. But I think the one thing that really works out is to understand or work with people who have knowledge of what is the culture in that area or in your jurisdiction or where you want to move into. And then doing that research that gives you data points that you can really use those insights to give you an added advantage, or also looking for partnerships on the ground that can help you. Now, as an incubator, we work highly in partnerships with people in those countries who understand the landscape better.
Yeah, so understanding each other kind of narrative will be also one of the key points. But Mr. Martin, what do you think based on your looking at your portfolio and based on your experiences?
So in terms of, I hope the question is related to scaling in South Africa, looking at growing beyond the country you're in. Most of the time, the startups we come across, they have this drive and ambition to grow across the continent. Some even want to go to Asia and the like. And then at that point, they have 500 or 5,000 customers in a population here in Kenya of 55 million. If you do some numbers, probably your target market could be something like 2 million customers or thereabouts. And here you have 5,000 customers, and you're thinking about crossing over to Uganda, Tanzania, the entire, I think it's about a 350 million population there. The first question I ask you is, so you want to cross over. What have you done in your current market? And in line with, and I think Glovo might be able to speak to this better, rolling out Glovo in Nairobi and Kisumu or in Mombasa is not typically the same, because even the licensing requirements from the different county governments is different. So if you focus on trying to at least tap into your market potential within your country first, and going to what Peter said, listening to your customer and all those things there. If you look at tapping into your current market, target market, the exposure to the different counties or the exposure to different regions within the same country might set a stronger foundation when you're trying to step out of that country to go to another market. So it's not a question of how do you move to another country. The question is how do you build enough resilience as a business such that you're able to deal with internal shocks that looking at problems like Kenya and moving to a country like Uganda, who half the time you don't understand their legal structure. And then when you move to any country, and we've seen this from large organizations, large corporates, you move to any country. First, Africa is not a country, it's a continent. East Africa is not a country, it's a sub-region. You cannot go and assume that you know it all, just simply because you're bringing a product, you know it all. The focus should be try as much as possible and empower the locals. If it's Uganda, try and have as many Ugandans working for you, as opposed to being a Kenyan company bringing in Kenyans and thinking you know it all in the market. Why? Because these people have probably better insights that would inform your strategy, and you might have to fine-tune it better than or adapt it to the local market as opposed to the regional strategy you have for your company.
So yeah, maybe I can just add on to that. I think the fundamental thing is also don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. So we've seen that when people are expanding to other markets, they look at data, they get like an external research firm to do the data, and then that guides the expansion strategy. So I think people should be more hands-on when they're moving to another market. Get down to the ground, understand the local nuances that could challenge your business. Someone said it's rather that you delay the dream as opposed to killing the dream altogether. So I think don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, get to the ground, and actually make sure that what you're investing in or the market that you're moving into is actually worthwhile.
I see. In addition to that, sir, I have a question to Caroline. So do you think, how about the culture things? So do you think how a startup can penetrate one culture into several regions? Since like in region, there are some cultural differences and people have several different preferences or perception, right? So so what do you think about the culture and brand? Do you think how startup can penetrate one brand to several regions?
Yeah, so definitely when you're moving into a different region, do not dilute your product. So obviously your product is your value proposition. It's what's going to get the customer in, and of course you have your mission, your vision, everything. So you're not going to touch the product. But what I tell people is obviously communication can be localized. It's advisable to localize it. But then the other thing that you can localize is innovation. So I'll give you an example. So if some of you have interacted with Global, most of you have interacted with Global, we have a new product or a new store called Global Bargains. So this store is focusing on affordability. So of course, some of our key OKRs are coverage and accessibility, but then we've also realized in Kenya and in Africa as a whole, affordability is a key thing. So we've created this new innovation called Global Bargains, which where we're able to source directly from the farms, distributors, manufacturers, and actually give you not take up a higher margin so that we are able to give the customer affordable products. So you can innovate locally, but not dilute your product.
Wow, yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so due to the time, I'd like to move to the next question. So next question is kind of like a timing and also a suggestion. So I'm from Nigeria. Then most of Nigerian startup wants to expand to other countries because of risk of currencies. Yes. But looking at other startups, it seems it's very difficult to go to other countries. From Nigeria to, for example, Kenya. There are some difficulties, like regulation and cultural differences. Then what I would like to know is from the perspective of VC and also accelerator incubator, do you suggest startups to expand to other regions? Then if so, then if yes or no, even if yes or no, so how VCs and incubator can support startup when they want to expand to other countries? maybe can I ask from Peter?
Yeah, I can go first, and really I think the answer lies in what has already been said, right? Expansion is not really so much about you being in 67 countries as an early stage business. It's really so much more about growth, right? Growing your revenue, optimizing your cost structure, right? It could also be expanding to adjacent industries within the same locality, right? As Caroline was talking about with Glovo, an affordable product that now sort of includes more customers, right? So I think when you look at it from this lens, then the question really is, as an early stage company that is really still trying to really understand your customer, to build a product, does it make sense to spend a lot of your resources to go into yet another new country, deal with all the regulations that Martin was talking about, hire a new team, probably a local one, if you really want to succeed, right? Understand that market. Does it really make sense as an early stage business? And really also depends with your business model, right? Maybe your business model allows for that, maybe it doesn't. So there are a lot of variables that you really need to look into. And even if you look locally, right? Safaricom, for example, I'll give a lot of examples from the telco world. Safaricom is in one market, right? They're $2.5 billion dollar company per year. They're listed on the Nairobi Stock Exchange, right? On the flip side, there are other operators that are in 14 markets. They are generating $5 billion a year in 14 countries. But at what cost, right? It's twice as much revenue, but you have 14 CEOs. You have to build distribution networks in each of those markets. There's value in that, right? If one country is up from a diversification perspective, then there are 4 or 5 others that are pumping and growing, right? So top line revenue is not hit as hard because it's a diversification strategy, right? But if you're early stage, what are you diversifying from? Yet there's hardly any revenue, right? So I think it's a timing question. I think growth does not necessarily mean more countries. I think growth actually means extracting more value from the resources that you have and from the industries that you are playing in.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe from the early stage, we may not have to try to expand. But Rebecca, what do you think? So do you think how an incubator and the VC can support such a startup they want to expand? So maybe after first growth stage or later?
So from incubator's lens, what we look at, because we support more than 1 or 2 portfolios in terms of how are they looking at their growth, how they're looking at scaling, of course, their boundaries or their bound. So our superpower there is limited to, one, looking at what are the governance structures they have, what is the following funding that they've been attracting over time, and then the support we give is technical advice, or we give them, seed funding to support them to move, like from one seed to the other. And then thereafter, when they are meeting investors, we see what is the ripple effect we are getting from the investors in terms of what their interest looking like. Then we can advise them accordingly with regard to, if you want to, scale, this is what investors are looking at. So for us, it will be more of the structures, the systems, what type of funding they have, how strong are they, how they're going to survive. And then the other maybe nuance that will come to play is they grab a pilot, and then they try out a product in a certain market, and then they're able to, see how far they can go. A good example is that right now we are trying as an incubator to move to West Africa. And we are looking at genderless investment, and we only picked one country. We have the whole of West Africa we could actually explore. But we're thinking, okay, can we prototype it in Ghana, and then we put out a call for female investors, female founders in the health sector. And now when we put out the call, we had to partner with someone who is in Ghana to answer the question of culture and, to address that aspect. So if you look at the variables of how you're going to trend as an incubator, there's a limit to which you want to advise your company to be very careful how they're going to approach it, that there's always a return on investment, whoever they're going to attract. Because keep in mind, as an incubator, our role is to position these portfolios to be investable. So the investor readiness is dependent on them achieving all these other variables for them to be attracted to, be attracted to the investor. So that idea.
Yeah. Thank you very much. How about from a perspective of VCs? So Mr. Martin, maybe if you can add something, that would be.
So Peter is not saying something there. We were colleagues some time back. So working with him at GSMA.
He was the boss, as you can tell.
So part of our role is to support startups with partnerships with mobile operators. And there's always this narrative that, if the mobile operator knows about your product, they're likely to take it away from you. If you're afraid to share it, then probably it's not even your idea in the first place. Yeah. So you might as well just take the risk and try and scale. In regards to that, so there are a few companies in our portfolio that we've been able to support, and this support beyond funding. Since the GSM is an association of mobile operators globally, we're able to open doors at the mobile operator space. We've been able to handhold some of these companies that are trying to expand into new markets, and provided the mobile operator might be a partner that can help you scale, we've been able to support that. We have a company in our portfolio called Eneza Education that's been able to scale, I think, 5 or 6 markets in Africa, and from Anglophone to Francophone countries, and they're using low tech, in this case IVR and SMS. Nothing smartphone driven, and they're offering education content on SMS. So even if you have an ultra low cost phone, and then if you look at the structure of how they operate, they are a very lean organization, which means combining the tech investment and the size of the company and the partnerships that can come on board, in this case mobile operators, it becomes easier for you to step into those markets. That's a very unique case. One shoe size doesn't fit all. So for every company that is trying to scale up, we have a company that's working on currency recognition, targeting people with visual impairment. So they've successfully done it in India, and they're trying to get into Sri Lanka. So we're working with the mobile operator, Dialogue in this case, to build the solution and refine it for the Sri Lankan market. The back-end tech is more or less the same, but trying to refine it for the local market. So there are those opportunities. We're able to extend that to portfolio companies, but beyond portfolio companies, even other startups who could be and they want to work with a mobile operator, as long as you're not asking for free bundles and free SMSs and such like, you have a strong value proposition, we might be able to support you in terms of being able to partner with mobile operators to scale up.
Wow, amazing. Maybe if there are any startup they want to.
I was going to say, are there any questions or clarifications that are necessary on that point? As you're thinking about it, I'm going to drop one here. What about regulation? We've talked about a different variants, tech, getting MNCs and telcos support. No one has talked about regulation. The one thing that can shut the company down in the moment it's done. As you think about that. Any other question as we conclude? Anyone? Yes, we have a question over here.
Yes. Good afternoon. So my question is, when I visited last time in Europe, it was in June, you buy a SIM card and you buy a bundle. Irrespective of where you go within European Union, that bundle is valid in another market, and you can still call, you can have access to internet, even though you are not in that country. When should we expect to see this in Africa? Especially now, I'm from Tanzania. I came to Kenya for a few days. I was disconnected because every time we leave these stations, they're late. The Safaricom shops are closed. So it's we're relying on Wi-Fi. And then secondly, maybe the question will be on what is the likelihood of introduction of virtual SIM cards, so that when I'm in another market, I just need to download an app. As long as I have access to internet, I can just access all the services available within the network.
Can I take it, Martin?
And you can also just say that's government's fault. But go ahead. Try.
I think I have two answers for you. So you're from Tanzania, so you have a Tanzania SIM, right? So
don't tell him to go Airtel. I will see.
No. I'm giving him a solution.
Okay, there
right?
you go.
You can buy a roaming bundle with Airtel that can roam in 14 markets.
The Airtel.
I'm not selling. I'm not with Airtel. So that's a potential solution. With eSIMs, I think there are a few trends that are actually really driving adoption on this front. Because of the glut in chipsets, right now, if you want to buy SIM cards, you have to basically put your money down 3 months in advance, and the cost has almost gone up 3 times, right? So what that means is that operators are really looking for other alternative solutions, and one of the things that will really accelerate adoption of eSIMs is this specific trend. But at on the same token, you need a handset that can actually accept this capability. So it's not just an operator play. You actually need the devices to have this capability.
He's refused as a customer. We have to listen to our customers.
Oh, no, that's for eSIM. That's not for bundles that are interoperable. That's for eSIM capability. Yeah, so that's specifically for eSIM.
I think also, go ahead.
Yeah, and also maybe just to mention, I'm not supposed to be answering these questions. It's like you're interested in my job. You want me fired. I think, to be very politically correct, until when this continent establishes a way of working together, there is the AFCTA trade and all that. Even simple elements such as that, we're having countries not coming together. You can imagine for the mobile operator. Airtel, when I was working for Airtel back in the days, there was a one network. So one SIM card, you cross over the border and you don't need to register for roaming. Yeah, right now you have to. So and the reason why it's seamless is because they've established proper behind the scenes. They have proper partnerships or contracts amongst themselves, such that even as you're roaming around, it's seamless. But you're probably roaming only that maybe the back end has been sorted out. That's for us to challenge our people. They need to also build those partnerships for people to be able to move around seamlessly across
the e-trade. So that's a government issue, much more than it is anything.
Anyone wants to take the regulatory question?
Yeah. I think I can take it. So at Global, we have a policy. We say, make friends before you need friends. So we have a very strong policy department that's involved in discussions and lobbying across the markets where we operate. So of course, we've had some setbacks once in a while, but because we already have that foresight, then we're able to attack the situation before it actually happens. So that would be my advice: make friends before you need friends.
And maybe just to add on to that, there's a trend across the continent where governments are coming up with startup acts. How many times or how often do we have startups sitting in those sessions and giving their opinions? If you sit outside and a regulation is passed and you had an idea that you have put across or a voice you have put across, then the regulation that is put across is actually going to affect your business. You have to start by blaming yourself. So if you leave policy decisions to be made by politicians who have no idea about running a startup, then be ready to deal with the consequences. At the same time, whatever solution you're building, again, going towards the idea behind how Glovo is operating, try as much as possible and leverage the power of networks. Knowing someone in central bank and you're rolling out a fintech solution is easier to do it now that you're building the solution than when they're sending cops to arrest you because they think you've done something wrong. So you have to, networking opens doors that will probably never be opened on the context of you have a smart product in the market and it's already out. So start building these relationships as early as possible. Where do you find these people? The same way you came in here, the same way those guys are holding the events, and they could be relevant for you to be able to engage with them.